Hello, hola. So we're gonna start with I'm recording this so you can actually watch the replay as well later. I'm gonna start with the Spanish, as I mentioned. So let me share the screen with the PowerPoint. Okay. Let's see. There. Yeah. Brilliant. So many things to do. So today we're going to be doing translation as one of the, if you are in year 11, well, in year 10 as well, you'll be doing translation in the exam. This is the one you will find in the writing exam, because there is translation from Spanish into English, that's the reading, and translation from English into Spanish, which is the harder one. Now, you can feel free to ask questions in the chat if you like, because that's we can't hear at the moment. Okay, let me see. Can you not hear? The sound should be okay. It seems okay. You can, yeah, okay. So it seems that the sound is okay. So I don't know. One of the things that you can do if you can't hear me for any reason is leave the meeting and then join back, because most of the time that will fix it. Okay, so I let you in if you want to do that. Oh, okay, you can now. Perfect. So let's have a look. So in translation, look, I already said these sessions are great because they build momentum. You can start understanding things that otherwise you don't spend time doing. But obviously, it doesn't mean you're going to become completely fluent and prepared in the subject. But yeah, they are very, very helpful to understand different concepts. So today with the translation, as I was saying, what I wanted to have very clear is that when you have to translate, so you've got a translation task from English into Spanish, the hardest thing to do is to actually have the technique. And this is what I'm going to share with you today. Because obviously, you do need to know the vocabulary, you do need to know the grammar. But when you know the technique, it's going to enhance your performance. You're going to do better, in other words. So what is this technique? Look, I put it into break it down into three clear steps. Step one, you read the whole text. You would be surprised. Many students go on just go right. They see the text and they see the first sentence, they start translating. Now, that is not advisable because you need to understand the sense, the whole sense, and understand, right? So, is this about what's happening now? The context? Is it what is going to happen? So, there has to be an understanding of the actual text. So the first step is read the whole thing and do it systematically. Always adopt this approach so you start translating better. Step two is make decisions. I'm going to show you with the text how easy, how much easier translating can become by following this. So what does making decisions mean? When you are reading the text, you are seeing things like, okay, so this is happening now, but then, so this is happening now, but then it's telling me about the past and things like that, okay? So making decisions is about the grammar, the tenses, etc. And then finally, you're gonna break down the text to make it easier to translate and obviously translate. But I've added a number 4 if you want there. So the steps are still key steps are 3, but proofreading will correct a lot of things. You know, these things in Spanish that are usually quite annoying, like masculine, feminine, plural. Oh, I forgot to add an S. Oh, I forgot the word order. These things are easier to spot when you proofread. Let's jump straight in. So this is the one. Let's apply the steps. For now, all you need to do is read, because this is step 1. So I'm going to let you read this passage. Okay? If you read the passage, chances are obviously you now know what they are talking about. So we're talking about holidays, and there is different tenses. It's present, it's past, it's future. Okay, now I know more than I knew before. So we move on to step 2. Same obviously text, but we're gonna make decisions. This is the most crucial step. So how do we make decisions about the just see, how do we make decisions about let me just put, about this text. Decisions is about understanding the text better so we can get the right. Let me just highlight there. Yeah. So decision says the grammar. In the last holidays, I often go to the cinema. Okay, so I often go to. So you make your first decision there. Okay, is this present, past, future, right? What do you think? Put it in the chat. I mean, it's fairly easy, but I'm just showing you the technique so you are better. What do you think this is? I often go to. I go. Present, past, future. This is English, so it shouldn't be any problem. Exactly. Boy. So I already have the Spanish. But remember, although that's great, the best thing is to now make your decisions like, okay, this is present. Do I know how to say? Okay, yeah. Given that, oops, that could be a problem. However, given that isn't the same as kind of because, or, so you can think about this and use something. You might know something that is a synonym. We need to think about that. I love watching. How do we say this in Spanish? You don't need to literally say it, but you say, right, so I've got the opinion followed by what? How do we express that in Spanish? Let me see. Yeah, wonderful. That dado que is how we say the given that. Exactly, dado que. And then I love watching. Remember, although it seems we are translating, we're just making decisions about the text, okay? So we're not quite translating, although you can say it absolutely, and you can start thinking. I love watching. We know that I love is an opinion, and it's got to be followed by an infinitive. So anything there that is not an infinitive is going to be wrong. So we carry on making decisions. Last summer, okay, this is vocabulary. Do I know how to say last? Let me see, Encanto. Okay, but we're gonna look at that some bit later, the translation, because that's a little bit mixed with French and all that. So we are making decisions about the tenses and the grammar for now. All right, because encantó is actually past tense, and here this is what do you see? I'm telling you now. I can show you now why skipping a step could be counterproductive, because we're not translating yet. And so you use encanto, and that's past. So it's better to make the decision that this is simply a present tense. And a present tense, if I want to say I like, is me gusta. Therefore, if I want to say I love, is me encanta, with an A for present tense. So you see the importance of making decisions? We're making decisions. This is where things get a little bit harder for students. So I see some students joining now. I don't know if you are late for the Spanish or you are early for the French. So the French will start in about 5-6 minutes still, just to let you know. So we are now translating the Spanish, well, making decisions. Last summer I went, and this is where I wanted to get. So I went. I'm pretty sure everyone knows this is past, but we need to make a decision. What type of past is this? How many types of past do we know in Spanish? That's a question for you in the chat. You're just telling me how many. Yes, pretérito. So one of them is pretérito. So these are the things, right? Pretérito. And what about the other one? So we know 2 past tenses in Spanish. Simple. Just to remind everyone that you can type regular. No. I'm asking 2 past tenses in Spanish. One is pretérito, which is a weird name, I know. And what about the other one? Nobody? Okay. So this is the thing. Because we are making decisions rather than translating, this is what I want to ensure you guys understand today. We don't skip this step because we are making decisions. Do you know what this is highlighting now for yourselves? That you don't know the 2 types of past tense. So this is telling you, okay, I need to look into that. If you go and say something in Spanish and you skip that, you will never be aware of that. So the second past tense is imperfect. And so we need to know the difference, because how do I know which one I use here? This is why we have step 2 and students skip it. And so their translations are all over the place because they skip this one. Of course, if no one's told you. So it might be that you are here and you don't know the difference between these 2, but we don't have time to address that today because I'm showing you the 3 steps to become more competent in translation. So if you don't know these ones, this is something we can look at. In fact, it's one of the mini lessons soon, the difference between those past tenses. But just as a bear in mind that it's a lot more complex than that, but as a big summary thing, the key idea is that pretérito is the one that you use like a one-off event. Yesterday, I went to the cinema. Something like that, all right? I went to the cinema. Something like that. Whereas the imperfect is more about repeated actions in the past. Something like I used to go to the cinema every Saturday. Can you see? The first one is a one-off. Second one is a repeated action in the past. And by the way, if someone, as I said, is waiting for the French, that's the same in French. So we'll talk about that later. So in this case, even if you don't remember these 2, which one do you think this one is? Is this going to be pretérito in your opinion, or is this going to be imperfect? Tell me in the chat, given what I've just mentioned. Exactly right. Anybody else? Can you see? It's a one-off. Last summer, this is what I did. It's not I used to go. Exactly. So you see, my decision is made. I know it's past and preterite. So I wanted to show you precisely this, all right? In the south of France, then everything else is just words. You might know them or not. Where my best friend has a caravan, has, he has, or she has. Present, past, or future. This one. My friend has. Exactly. So we just go right. So the verb to have is tener, that's to have, but it's she or he. So then you will do that in step 3. So do you see what I'm saying? Yeah, and how things are working for you. And then it was sunny every day. It was. So we went sightseeing. So these are the decisions. Now, I'm going to give you one more thing. Of course, this is highlighting you need help with the verbs, because you didn't quite know the 2 different past tenses. So the imperfect is also used for descriptions in the past. Natalia, what does that mean? It means, look, the weather was fantastic. Am I not describing what the weather was like? Can you say in the chat, yes, you are? Or what? Yes, no? Am I describing? If I say the weather was absolutely great, do you think that's me describing what the weather was like? Tell me in the chat, yes, no? It is. In that case, it was sunny. Preterite or imperfect? Exactly, it is. So tell me, what would you choose there? Preterite? I said that to describe things in the past, it's got to be imperfect. Am I not describing it was sunny? Moreover, the fact that every day, isn't it telling you it's a repeated action, not a one-off? So do you guys see that? And why we choose imperfect? Tell me, ask me questions if you don't. But this is the key essence of what we're doing. We need to decide. This is why we get it wrong when we don't do this step. Do you, but again, if you don't see this, it's not that you're not seeing the translation steps, is that what this has highlighted today is that you don't know this. Your knowledge of this is not secure. So when we need to look at this. Does it make sense? That's a different thing. But I hope the understanding of making decisions, right, was clear before we translate. We went sightseeing. That's a one-off, preterito. Like I went to the cinema. We took photos, one-off. It's not we used to take photos. It would be imperfect. This is what it is. We ate loads of ice cream, still preterito. And finally, next year is going to introduce the future. And so the key idea of today's mini lesson is that when you have a translation, you need these 3 steps. The number 3 is break it down now and now translate the words, then proofread, right? This is the key idea. And now I'm just going to show you. This is a sample. What I'm going to do is I'm going to put this PowerPoint, the link before you go, in the chat so you can actually have a look at the actual translation. And so you can go, oh, so that's what it is, right? So I'm going to do that. Bear with me. Let me see. Sorry, I'm just going to get the link here before you go. Who here is waiting for the French mini lesson? Because it's starting now. Anyone's waiting for the French? or is it all Spanish? So you can type in the chat if you'd like, yeah, or do one of these actions like that, and it's like, yeah, it will be a lot easier. So if you click on the link in the chat, you'll have access to this PowerPoint. It means that you can now look at the steps. I was for the Spanish. Yeah, I know you were one of the first ones. Yeah, it's brilliant. As I said, oh, wonderful. So as I said, these are short sessions, but the idea is that if you spend now 5-10 minutes looking at, okay, so, you go to school and it's like translation and you need to do one, or there is an exam and then you're like, okay, let's follow the steps. Okay, so it won't be a magic thing because you need to know the words. But if you do know your tenses, that's going to help with your translation hugely. This was the whole point. We're going to start with the French now. I hope you clicked on the link and you had access to that. And it means that you can actually translate for yourself now and then check the answer. All right. So for the Spanish, we finished now. If you have any questions, put it in the chat. Otherwise, I will see you next week, because these are bite-sized mini lessons, but they will help you over a period of time. All right? Good, great. En français, bonsoir. Ça va? Bye. Adios. Adios. Bonsoir. Comment ça va? Adios. So we are now with the French lesson. So I know a few are waiting for that. And so we're going to do translation too, but obviously en français. So the steps are the same. You approach in the same way. I don't know for how long you were here, but it's great that you were early. That's absolutely brilliant. So what I was saying is the aim today is to understand that when we follow some steps, we're going to be a lot more, oh, ça va bien. I love when students use the language in the chat. Très bien. So, yeah, when we follow steps, we're going to be more effective, because sometimes it's that technique that is lacking. All right. So let's go for it. The step one is read the whole text. Now, many is like, well, yeah, but you would be surprised how many students just go and start translating right away. So yeah, but you need to do it carefully. Right. Step two, you need to make decisions. This is where students are like, well, what was that? Making decisions is clearly understanding the grammar. So it's like, okay, is this present, past, future? Is this plural? Is the word order here the other way around? So you're gonna kind of analyze the language a bit and decide, right? And the step number 3, so when you follow these steps, you are inevitably going to be more effective. But of course, what happens is that we tend to get shortcuts because following is not always easy. And so as a result, we make more mistakes. So don't take the shortcuts. The step number 3 is break down and translate, break down the text. And at the very end, always proofread. Shall we jump straight into the translation? Let's do step number 1. I'm going to give you a minute, read the whole text. D'accord. Alors, numéro 2, step 2. it's the same text. We're going to start making decisions. So it's what I was doing, as many of you joined when I was finishing the Spanish. And so you could see how I was making these decisions with students. So you go, my friend George is very hardworking, doesn't present any problem. It's just saying someone is hardworking as a present tense and funny, and I get on well with him. This is more about knowing the vocabulary, but it's normal present tense. Can we see that? Yeah, let me know in the chat. You can say we, or you know that you have reactions in Zoom that you can go thumbs up and all that. So you can be a bit more interactive if you like. All right. So if you see that, I don't see, and obviously you can ask any question. So if you see that, I don't see any problem in these particular sentences. But then I move on to he used to, and I'm asking you now. I see students a tiny bit reluctant to type in the chat, but tell me, he used to. I'm going to just say that is clearly past tense, but which one? And that's my question to you guys. There are two main past tenses in French. Which one is the one we have there? He used to. Can anyone tell me in the chat? Okay, so we have perfect tense. Some question, okay. Right. So what I'm going to do with these mini lessons is the next one, I'm going to tackle the past tense. And then at some point, I'm going to offer another mini lesson with translations. So you can now be more confident, because I can see the problem is that you can't make the right decisions if the tenses are so, are not secure. So look, I'm going to give you a tiny, just like I did with the Spanish. This is just the big idea. It's not going to be enough, but because we're not doing tenses today. But I'm going to give you the big idea in the difference. So we have the passé composé, which is the perfect, like you just found there. I like to call it in French, passé composé. So this one, which is the perfect tense, is something like j'ai mangé, I ate. J'ai mangé une pomme. I ate an apple. Yeah, I ate an apple. And then we have the imperfects. And this is exactly like the Spanish, which is je mangeais une pomme tous les jours. Why do I say that? So in the first one is I ate an apple. In the second one is I used to eat an apple every day. I used to. So in the first one, we have, it's not what I wanted. Okay. In the first one, we have a one-off event like that in the first one. Can you see that? Yesterday, I had an apple. Can you see that that's just one thing that I did? In the second one, I have a repeated action in the past. I used to every day, did it many times, a repeated action. All right. Now tell me in the chat if you can see this concept, that one happens only once. So tell me oui, yes, parfait. Can you see? So that's the essence of when to use one and when to use the other one. Now, Natalia, is that all? That's the biggest idea. So that's 90% of the theory behind this. There's tiny few things that need to be said, but as I said, it's not today's lesson. So can you guys see? He used to, is it a one-off, in which case I use passé composé, or is it a repeated action in the past? Tell me. One or repeated? Exactly. There you go. You already made your decision. You already made the decision that this is imperfect because you said it's a repeated, and you're right. So do you see now what making decisions means? Sometimes you can't make decisions because you don't know the theory behind those decisions, but the step of making decisions is crucial. So when you do know the theory, the difference between these tenses, it makes sense. So when he was little, yeah, I'm gonna just add for imperfect, I'm just gonna add something else. For imperfect, we also use it for descriptions in the past, like in the past. So repeated or descriptions in the past. What is a description in the past? The weather was great because I'm describing what the weather was like, or oh, he was little because I'm describing what he was like. Can you see how this is imperfect too? Because I'm describing when Georges was little. We carry on. Now he plays video games, clearly present tense, nothing weird. Oh, we move on to, we go back to the past. Tell me in the chat. Yesterday I went. Tell me. Passé composé, is it a one-off yesterday happened, or it happened many times? Or imperfect? Tell me. Composé or imperfect? Would he used to it be il mangeait? Yeah. Well, or is the end different? Yeah, instead of the S is a T instead of, but yes, that's how it works. So yeah, it's a, the ending for imperfect is AIS, AIS, and then for he or she, AIT. All right. So the ending is the same, but with a T. I think the ending is fine. This is the spelling. Yeah. Yeah. So my question now is, when you say yesterday was we're making decisions, do you see how the student wants to, you guys want to translate quickly, right? So kind of skipping the steps. It's very normal, all right? But I can assure you making these decisions will help you be more accurate. So I went. Is that a one-off? In which case is passé composé, or is it a repeated action in the past? Tell me in the chat. Or tell me imperfect or passé composé. What do you think it is? Exactly right. Je suis allé because it is exactly right. Je suis allé because it is a perfect tense one-off. And we saw a film also one-off. This is what we did. Je suis allé, and then nous avons regardé un film au cinéma. All right, so I shouldn't be translating now because we're still making decisions, but since we made the decision, this is passé composé. This is how it sounds. All right, yeah, passé composé. And finally, when we have tomorrow night, we clearly have a future tense there, which is the near future. Because it's very clear that that's the future. So as you can see, the difficulty is to understand the past tenses. Masculine, feminine, plural, those are things you need to decide. How do we say we are going to eat? In other words, how do we use the future tense? We are going to eat. Nous mangeons. Ooh, okay. So what I noticed in this first mini lesson today is that the verbs are a massive decision and also something that needs to be more secure in order to make the right ones. Again, it's not the aim of today, is because we have very little time, and it's not something that you can do in just one lesson. But as a reminder, nous, okay, not there. I'm gonna put it here just as a reminder, because if you are in year 10 or 11, you need to know this very clearly. Nous, we, nous allons manger. So in other words, the way it works is that you say nous, which is the subject, and then aller, the verb aller, obviously conjugated in the present tense, plus, isn't this an infinitive? Plus infinitive. This is how we form the near future tense. Nous allons manger. That's another question, but I hope you understood the key idea, because the more you learn about tenses and grammar, the more you will need to apply this, because obviously the more accurate you will be. So the key idea today is that the 3 steps will help you be more confident, more effective. However, you do need to know your tenses, of course. Right? So then you proofread to see if there is any mistake, and same, I'm going to do exactly the same I did with the Spanish. I'm going to go to the chat. Let me see. And I'm going to, put the link for you in this chat. So so I'm putting the link to this PowerPoint now. There you go. Translation 1. So if you click on that link, you will have access to this, and it means, voila, you have the sample answer. Okay, so you can translate and check. So let me do that before we go. So you can see, mon ami Georges est très travailleur et drôle, right? Et je m'entends bien avec lui. Il aimait le foot. This is the imperfect. He used to. Quand il était petit. Encore une fois, imparfait. So, maintenant, now, present tense. Il joue à des jeux vidéo. Hier, we move on to again. Je suis allé. I went en ville avec Georges et nous avons vu ou regardé. Nous avons vu. We watched. We saw a film. Au cinéma. And then the future tense, like I said, nous allons, and then the infinitive, manger. So this is the essence of how we should be approaching the translation question in an exam, right? Step 1, I read and get an idea. Step 2, I make my decisions. Is this past? If it's past, which one is it? Oh, wait, word order or the adjective after the noun. So you make your decisions, and boom, step 3, I break it down nicely and translate. Never forgetting to proofread, because if you do that, you can actually find mistakes and therefore remove them, so you can get all the marks possible. All right. Bon, merci. I hope I see you. What I'm going to do is, I'm pretty sure it will be quite helpful to do a mini lesson next week on the difference in both past tenses. Passé composé, imparfait. D'accord? Au revoir, and I'll see you next week. Très bien. De rien.